was evaluating her. Now, she's a prime example. If I had her medical records, expecting to walk in that door versus what walked in, my brain would have been on a different client. She is a tall tree. She's like a giraffe. She's, I think maybe she should have died 4 years ago. She just didn't realize she was supposed to, and she's still standing. I mean, her tonus, her pace person, she's an amazing woman. And you have to be open to that. So when someone's like, oh, by the way, I have a colostomy, like, oh, okay. I have no rectum system. Can you imagine someone taking that much out of your body and you still have to function like a healthy nervous system like everybody else? Just sitting down with no more, you know what I mean? So when I said push my hand away, she pushed her belly out because that's all she knew is the bag here. She had lost all sensation to that. So,
Is that what the rectum push thing was?
yeah, because I wanted her to, when I asked her to just, when the hip's in pain and stuff, and I'm like, well, push me away, and she literally would go that way. She just had no more, because she doesn't even sit down to eliminate, just that force moving those muscles. So again, her bike is also different, and so I wanted to offer her something to see if I can get those muscles functioning again, because again, if it's a nerve damage, although today was the first day and I didn't even realize that chemo comes out through your nerves and hands and feet. So I didn't know, did you?
No.
Mm-mm.
Like the blistering and stuff? So
Did she say hands as well as feet?
Yeah, her
Okay,
hands
I
were
didn't
blistered
get
too.
that's when they knew there was too much poison in her and they'd stop the chemo. Because that's how they look at chemo. It's poison and then they make arrangements.
I know that feet,
Yeah,
but I
they-
didn't know.
They tell them right out that you're going to lose all sensations in your feet and hands.
Right, but I didn't realize that chemo exited out your nerves. So what was interesting about what I was doing with her, though, is again looking for the cross, that push-pull through the. I was above her, and I was really working a good half hour almost with the hips because of bringing back. She ices, she medicates. She's looking at an epidural. And again, I would like to see her every 2 weeks. When I was every 2 weeks, she actually could go about 3 to 4 days without pain. So at least her brain was feeling was hope. But now she's on fire all the time, but it's like,
She doesn't remember that it was 3 or 4 days, though, does she?
No,
Because
but
she remembered only one day.
right, but I don't want to push. I understand her finances, and I'm not here to push, So, and thank you. You can always tell though. I think it's more about 8 months.
And the epidural would be covered by insurance?
Nerve block, I think she said. Yeah, nerve block. So I don't know. Okay, that's fine. Okay, cuttings. So this is part of what I was going to go into today, more of lying on the spine, the cat claws. So I wanted to show how I really can go a good half hour with someone. So we're going to go over that as a lesson. Either today or tomorrow, there's been a little request of getting us off our bums a little bit. So I might go into some stand-up lessons first, and then tomorrow to finish up with the spine, just to get us up off our feet. But as you can see here nicely, how nice your hand can actually go into someone's tush. Now, this is a thin person rule. This is a one thing, normally I don't care if someone's this big or, but you can actually, when someone is this thin, you can get in here quite nicely and see with the iliac and just literally do a nice rotate lift into the pelvis. Does that make sense? You can play with Frank too if you want to. He really likes to be worked on.
Looks nice on Frank, but I have a hard time feeling that on somebody's.
Nobody
back end.
here. Maybe I can get away with Luciana or Heather Joy, but even that they still, because they exercise, they're not of thin. Whereas even though, but Luann with the cancer and everything, she's thin. She works out. She's good tonus, but she's pretty thin. So I can really get in here. This would probably be more again too with the child or the CP. But see, as I start to work with him, even Frank starts to respond. But this on me, yeah, no, you would have a hard time feeling it, you know, and it is what it is.
But you'll still be in the same place.
I'll be in the same place, but if you can see how nice it is to get in, with also to the way the iliac is. Most people don't realize the iliac has a nice roundness to it. We think we're more here. You know, and then you get bodies like Serena Williams. Oh my gosh, like, I'm telling you, like, she's one of those rare women that actually make me go, like, whereas most ones think, oh, okay, but no, like, she's got a body. And it's just nice how you can slide. There you go. See, it's so funny how you're working on damn plastic, but it slowly will give in and give you a lesson. You know, his heels countering more, it's like he gets it. And then again, that's where I go into tuning the piano, and I can get in here again with a thin person. And this, maybe you'll see more what I mean by that twisting of each vertebrae. I don't think you really realize it, especially in the upper lumbar, but the way that the spine lies down among itself, right? Versus the profiles, how they come out straight on, right? So I can be here, and this way is one thing. I'll still get more of an up or down motion. But up here, if you almost look at it like tuning a guitar, you know what I mean? Kind of thing where you're getting into, where you have that twist working for that note. So it's a different touch, and you can actually, if you want to look at Frank closer, to work. But see, if I'm down below, where the tip of the profile is, I'm really on the vertebrae below. So when you're doing these kind of things in this shift, you really can get in here and torque some ribs. So even what we were doing here, now this is where Frank's a pain. I can't really, because he's so knotted up. But see how I'm going into twist. He is moving, but not great. And then to answer your question from the other day, since I have him down, if you look in here, and this is where I forgot to remind Bruce, I said, bring me that screwdriver that's like on a coil that goes in. So do you know what I'm talking about? So there's, instead of doing here, well, the ribs do the same thing. So if you actually look closely here, and this is what I was talking about, getting under C7, but you can see it a bit better from here. But when I twist, do you see how I can get in there and actually tweak those vertebrae, right? Mm-hmm. So when I'm going underneath here, the elbows underneath, do you see how I can start working on that and the pull of the muscles? And that's what I mean by tweaking and going under C7.
What is tweaking?
Tweak, I don't know, what's a good definition for tweak?
Trampeando,
Making it better.
hacer trampa.
Gracias.
O engañarlo, como engañar el sistema nervioso.
Sí.
Well, that's twerking.
No. I've done flat to Frank. I draw the line with twerk. No twerking, Frank. And then I can do it this way, meaning that I rotate up and bring the bum back. But see how Frank is allowing me for his sacrum to find the floor from here, versus doing this. It's a completely different mechanism to come down and around.
And you were just doing the opposite before, tweaking this way.
Right. But are you seeing what I'm doing, though? It's the way to get the vertebrae to respond to that twist or rotation. So if I'm here again, see how this is something too. If someone's in pain, I mean, the inflection that she should have. So that's why too I do a lot of visceral work. So this is just my diorama of visceral tissue, right? Just to show again, hopefully to give Frank some depth. Now, a colostomy, does anybody need a picture of what that looks like? It sort of looks like a glad wrap kind of thing. It's hers is circular and so in nature, and I don't think she has control of how it fills per se, and then she has to manually empty it.
The stoma is,
Yeah.
Depends where, it's in the colon though. It's a colostomy.
Right.
and the stoma is hard plastic or?
The stoma is the
Okay.
actual intestine coming out. It's out of on the outside of the skin,
Right.
and then there's a
It's not
bag
a,
that clips on to the. It's like a 2-clip system. Clips on and empties.
so it doesn't feel hard like a G-tube whatsoever. It's just sort of like a bag. But what I do, I don't press right on it because I don't know how it's I don't want it to push back into her system or whatever. But I'm just underneath her and around her to facilitate her stomach and her needs. Please let me know if it's better if I demonstrate on someone's body. But what I wanted to show you too is the way when you work, again, you see how by going in here, now I wish I can go in and grab someone's vertebrae from this direction and just twist the shit out of them. I would be so happy. But I have to be creative on how that happens, right? So again, with the children, it is so nice that I can look at what I can do by that pubic bone alone that I cannot do with a grown adult. So, but, even though she's talking away, but my intent is also to that back hip. And so she's here just talking away and doing, but he's probably going to be better off if I do him here. But see how I'm looking to move that pelvis through my touch. So that's my intent more so when I work through the belly and work through, is to see how I can work on the vertebrae himself through my touch. And so if I'm here or here, to see how I can work on that kind of system. But I thought she was very gracious in really talking about all her stuff. And this is what I've talked about too. I think it's great that she went over her whole medical resume and got a lesson. She can talk about it when she's being able to breathe, to twist, to rotate, and to do all these things. And to see it hopefully in a different perspective, as a matter of fact, versus, being, like she said, a sufferer mode and all of this. And I'm not saying she doesn't, like she said, doesn't have a bad day in this, but at the same time, if anyone's gonna, live to 104, I mean, it's gonna be this woman as far as just her soul.
Curiosity. If she were telling that story and not being worked on,
Yeah, well then,
would there have been more emotion?
could be, but also she could also go into where she's inflecting, and that's where people I think refer to as a muscle memory, which I don't believe that if I touch here, like, oh my God, someone touched me, that kind of muscle memory. However, if you only know a certain stress in a habitual patterning, my breath starts to shorten, like this. I mean, cancer sucks. She's being told over the phone all alone, by the way, you're going to the doctor's, you know what I mean? Like, she meant it, she almost fell over, and her husband's not there. It's the first thing. She didn't think about herself. She just thought, where's my husband? You know what I mean? And he's on the road, and now he's got to get this news. And, and then she was going to go do it alone because all she knows, even with all her children and family, she still goes to her husband mainly, and that's that. I don't think she realizes it is that. And then she's like, well, it's not like they're going to do anything to me today. Well, yeah, they were. And so on and so forth. But I think it does help sometimes. And like she says, I'm sure most people come here for the love. They don't even see that kind of thing. Which, I take it as a big compliment that she feels secure enough not only to talk to me about her life, but to all of you as if it was, that you're part of my family now, sort of. So, and, so that part's, and I've always wanted to interview her more about what her cancer stuff does to her and does. And this is another way of where my hand was, but we'll get into that, like I said, more. We're actually going to be covering this a lot in the next segment with the scoliosis, because I'll be going into the scoliosis from the abdomen area as well as through the back area and all different aspects. It's not going to just be a segment on scoliosis, by the way, guys. It's going to be, fun people.
At a certain moment you have one hand under and the other on top, always in side laying. And then you change, you can with both, let's say on the right side of the woman, what was the difference?
When I felt her, if I remember right, when I felt her digestion start to happen, because she was starting to get bowel noises, which I like to get, the gurgle
Okay.
and all of this, then yeah, I was a bit more here.
Yeah.
And I was just assisting and to see if I could get even from here, which it's gonna be hard to say, but if I do it this way, but it doesn't take much to get that. But also too, I don't know how much surgery she's had where she can drop her diaphragm and the lungs properly. So like you and I, even this, I can go and drop quite low, but with her scar tissue, maybe her lung base is only, you know what I mean? Because it can't go beyond, or at least have the sensation, like when I'm really having good work done, I feel my breath down to my thighs. Obviously my lungs aren't there, but again, she doesn't have the tissue that even her own movements go through. And so, yeah, I was really in care for that, but
Would the movement go through the scar tissue, or does it interrupt?
both. Yes, the movement, like Jackson, can go very much through the scar tissue. Endometriosis and stuff, where it starts becoming more of a compact,
Oh.
and whatever, where literally people go to get up and they rip it because it just starts webbing. Because I don't know if you're familiar with endometriosis. I mean, it can go into the pelvic bones. It can go into, when you start talking about that, like they thought the problem is like one of her last surgeries she didn't mention, but they're like, they got the cancer, they got it. And they're like, woohoo, no surgery, there's no cancer. But then the radiation guy goes, guys, I zapped her as if you guys were doing surgery. We can't leave that in there. So they had to do the surgery to take out the damage, and that's where she got the permanent bag at that point. Because that's another thing, when the cancer gets too close to the pelvic bone, even though it's not in the bone, that's where they say that it's at a place we can't get it. It gets creative because you have to not only take off the cancer, but you have to take out around it. But if it's against the bone or in the bone, you can't just sort of like cut off half a pelvis.
And why does the tumor doesn't oppose to graffiti?
Because the tumor, it's not a living organism. It's a mass. So cancer replicates, the DNA is different, it acts different, it doesn't share, it's not a cell base. I get it that it's a living tissue, but it's not, that's why it's a tumor, it's defective, it doesn't know what to do with itself. So it starts, becomes like a little Pac-Man, and then these deformed cells grow, but it's a mass. So if you go to it's like swallowing your purse and then trying to get up. But you've got an inanimate object in your body that you're now trying to function with. And so now it starts affecting all your equilibrium because you're going this way and the other. And the cancer basically has its own personality.
So
Yeah, like a parasite, yeah.
that the same happens with the prosthetics, with some prostheses, or some when you have an object, for example.
Oh, there's no movement there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
you have that device is in your heart. I don't know how to say in English. Marcapaso.
Pacemaker?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand. It's,
The pacemaker?
No.
Like
that's it.
Yeah, but that's why Jackson here, his sternum's wired, and I think the wire is too short to his growth. So it's pulling him over, because that's how he came in, more grounded, the other day. And I had one lesson though before he came. You guys came? When they called up and said he's really hunching forward. But I think it's the wire in him. But even that wire around the sternum, his body won't be able to respond to movement. It'd be like in this table of movement lesson. So when people have artificial hips, when it's completely replaced, or they have the rod down, where they've hammered it in, you can go on and on. 2 fake knees versus real knees. It's there's no movement. So if someone has an artificial part in them, I have to make sure that opposing parts are extremely supple. Now I need to.
Throw it at Michelle, I get through it, you.
So-
Candy on top of her head.
I'm just going to quickly show you on Frank, but we're
May
all
I
going
ask you a
to.
last question?
Yes, go ahead.
You were working on his left foot from this lady,
Okay, her foot. Yeah. Okay.
and then you went up in the foreleg, the lower leg. What were you looking for then?
The conversation with the foot to the hip, that they can talk to one another better.
Okay.
I feel a little bit bad that I didn't give her a full lesson. I wanted you to see a good half hour of her back, a good half hour of her belly. But when she mentioned the feet, I'm like, I better. But I see her next Friday where I can give her both sides. Someone that's, even though she wouldn't say she's fragile, someone that is fragile, can you hold him and the ball when he goes forward?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to work on Frank briefly, and then I'm going to put someone here on my table, which I hope will be Holly, but I wanted to show the crossover the spine. So when I'm working now, Frank is going to be a little bit different because he doesn't have the muscle tissue. So if you can see him on this profile and this one. So it's not same, right? So, but because Frank, I'm not touching the bones right here either. I'm going to, let's say I'm doing more like this, you know, as far as the width. And all I'm doing now is springing in and release. So my intent is, see how I can get this vertebrae to start tilting? See how it gets the ribs in there? See how it gets the ribs to there? See, that's what I'm doing.
But there you are on the vertebra.
I am, I have to because he's got no muscle tissue. But I would
Just
be
to
more
show
like
us on
this.
On the bone.
But see how
Okay.
here, this goes left, right? See it? And the bottom one also goes. So when I see how I'm twisting, so then I go down. Does that make more sense, what I'm doing? But not only do I want the seesaws to happen, the muscle tissue in between each one, but also coming around.
And when you're going down, you're...
Can you get my big iPad, please? It's in the case, my black bag, I appreciate it.
When you do the spring back, you're not looking for tonus there at all, you're just releasing your...
Well, the spring back will give me an indication of where the tonus is. So the amount of spring, the quality of the spring, is it a fast spring, is it slow? I have a good muscle app, so I just want to show you quickly through the apps of the muscle, and then I'm going to work on Holly to show it
Last two numbers.
for you. Please, thank you. Whatever spare time I have, my puzzles.
That's what you showed us last time, right?
Oh, well, not the muscles. See, this is where, come on, baby. All right. So now, so if I'm here, right? So you can see the way that the spine, in a sense, still protrudes, but not like Frank. All you're seeing are these, just barely the tips, right? So now if I take off a layer, and then I take off another layer, right? Now they're starting to come out. Do you see how much you have to go through and you're still not through the bottom, the base of the muscles? This is what I'm after. Okay? So when you're doing this spring, do you see, do the seesaws make more sense now? So not only is it attached from one to one to one to one to one, but all around it. So every time I do all of this, right? This is my Leonardo da Vinci, the levers that I see. So if I just pull this one little lever right here, this ligament, in my mind, I can see. So if I pull right here, I can see how all of those would shift. Okay? Does this make sense to the way my mind visualizes? So when I reach for something, all of my ribs would expand out, you know what I mean? But all of these would shrink. So,
Tell it again. Your ribs are going to expand out and...
so here.
December, the other side.
Ah, okay, to frame. Okay, that's it.
So if you
Yeah, it's
look,
clear.
well, but this is where I need a nap. Because I see this and all of these seesaws are happening. And when I go like this, do you see how it's like a butterfly, right? And when I come back, it comes out like a butterfly, right? But it's not just a butterfly. It can also be a centipede. You know what I mean? All of those kind of things. So now if I bring in all of these together, right? So now if you have someone that has tonus issues and or this, that, and the other, they're going to start having, all of these are neuromapped into the brain. And I still can go, Les, look at that. See, it goes all the way down to the vertebrae. So again, that tweak. I just think that's amazing. And that's how much your diaphragm comes up into play.
And you can also influence, because as much as these muscles, we have other muscles very close to the spine from the front, and you can influence those muscles too with this.
Right,
with this-
but most people also are seeing these kind of muscles, but yes, if I turn around for the stomach now, right? So I'll go full on. So your stomach is quite protected. So if you start cutting through layers, those are your abs that everybody goes after, those six-pack suckers. And then again, there's another, look at this. This is all this stuff that Luann's been cut through 15,000 times. All of these layers, right? Same with Jackson. And again, I'm going to take another layer out. This is where Luciana's talking about. But now you can see, too, all these different layers still of muscles that happen even in the rib cage. But again, you can see those seesaws more, what I was talking about. So if you have a scoliosis and this whole line of muscles are shortened, you know what I mean? Look at the conversation that goes into the brain completely different.
Can you feel that with the organs?
I believe I can, but you know, it's teaching it is a whole nother thing. But hopefully, what
to
you
visualize, I mean, with the app, can you put the organs?
no,
Ah.
but I have other apps that I can go into possibly to, like here's the heart, right? What did I just say? So now when you're looking at the heart, now it's still not even in the sac. It's not here with the, you know, when you start taking off the layers. Yeah, but see, that's like useless to me, so sorry. Yeah, and then I just have the nervous system, so, but here we can look into the nerves. We can look at Luann's hip nerves. Now, that's that whole network that's going on here. Which one's giving her a hard time? Yeah, it's just, yeah, it doesn't. But anyway, but I think that the skeletal system, if you guys want to look at that, because, you know, especially here, look at all those neck ones. Here's, see? So again, and this too, this is where I say with flathead, we cannot control these muscles. But when you start having head abnormalities, flat head, then they can contract these short muscles. And you and I can't do that. And so they're here. See, I would be here lifting my head, and you can't even do it, but it's right about here, and they'll lift and move and play with these muscles, and they come way over exaggerated. And it's very hard. And now look at all this. See, this is where I started looking at my chicken toy. So, and then you've got the exterior muscles that we're more familiar with. But most people, because they don't look at the body for movement, look at what these muscles, especially in a baby, because they haven't established yet as muscles, are doing to the brain and what's going on, you know. I just find it fascinating. I hope this is interesting to you guys.
Yeah.
But even in here, into the jaw muscles and all of this, it's see, if you can see them? See, they're all connected. So if you throw off just here, this little strand, I mean, okay, I don't know what your beliefs are, but if God made this, it might be important because we all have it, whether we're red, brown, purple, what doesn't matter. But again, you can see again, now the tongue starts coming in. You know, I have a little girl, Olive, I've worked with that had the larynx surgery and stuff because she, look at all of that. Look at what Cupcake has to organize around. I just, I can't look at this enough. I mean, even here, look at the eye. Look at that. You know? So you guys can borrow this if you really want to look at it, but are you starting to see just the levels of movement in the body? We're just fascinating creatures.
What I thought was interesting too, looking at your two skulls back there, just looking into the navel cavity. Each skull is what they might consider to be minor differences, but they're those big differences.
Yeah, especially with I think the one has a deviated septum on the right side.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he has more of a protruding here on the one side, but
Can you show the holes here and
the orbits, you can blow them up a little bit, but
No, here.
the sinuses, yeah, no, I don't think so. Yeah, this is where you can't pop a lid. But this is the,
Well, yeah, the skull's back there to do that.
yeah, but she's talking
Yeah.
about in here. Because that's where my son's sinuses were here, all infected, the ethmoid, septoid sinuses on all the maxillaries and all that are all,
Because those bones are huecos.
what's with this?
They are not solid.
Yeah,
They have holes
Right here,
inside.
you can see it, yeah,
Huecos, holes.
yeah. They're cavities.
Cavities. Yes,
Yeah.
that's.
Yeah, and that's where I really started to look at movement, was through those cavities because of my son's infections. And just again, we look at the movements here, those muscles. Now my son had the thick mucus. Can you imagine what that did to his? What all these got a different level of the weight of the head. Can you imagine putting a helmet on these kind of fine muscles? I just, yeah. Can you imagine a 6-ounce helmet on a baby with flat head and what it's doing to all these? Right? You can start to see even more here underneath. It's just, like I said, I can go on and on, but at this level. But if we look at the legs, even,
Oh, that's great.
it's a nice app. But you can really see the myofascial tissue here. And again, like the sacrum. Okay, we'll look at the sacrum, but and you add again the way the muscles come into play, and your glutes. Again, we're thinking more the big cheek part.
Yeah.
But see how they go in here, and when you have femoral torsion and one leg's different than the other, look at the different of structure that goes in, especially here. See, now this is what was all taken out with Luann, you know, and again, look at that fine layer of muscle just to go to the bathroom, but you see how it's suspended? And so when you drop, you know, and excrete weight, your body's getting again that buoyancy to where it is to the seat and all of that. Prostate cancer, all of those things where they have to go in and, you know, people don't think anything about taking that stuff out, but, you know, look at, you're going to get an artificial hip done, or if you've broken that, if you ripped a hamstring. Look, so are the symmetries and the way movement happens getting a little bit clearer with all of this? By all means, tell me if this is boring, but I could just, you know, so I'm going to remove the layers. Again, look at your shins. So look at the difference between soleus and cams, you know, in a way that they're picking up movement. And again, not as a fault, but to offer ways that can enhance this, even though they're thinner and they're don't have the same conversation.
What I found amazing is I always thought of the muscles like this, like parallel to the bones, and all the muscles are like this.
No, they're all twisted.
Yeah, they're all twisted.
Yeah.
So the bones.
Yeah. See, look, they're all, the foundations are all, see the twist, there's no straight lines in the human bodies except for the nasal septum. And that to me, because I think it's the vestibule, like a carpenter's level. Horizontal, vertical, and a 45 degrees. So when the baby rolls around, they get an awareness of where they are in space. See, now again, look at how these muscles, like she said, they curve, they rotate. All of this. And see what this one's happening with the foot? Notice the difference. See, now they're opposing. And this is what I'm after, if this helps you with that twisting too, that spring. So again, if I lift my foot up, The base of the foot, it's getting that feel back, but in opposition of rotation. So one of the clearest examples you get is through the foot.
That looks, it reminds me of this that we were doing today.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that this is, the body is set up with tons of, we can get rid of Frank, I'm sorry.
Oh, can we? My hand's about sleeping.
So see, look at how again, and it curves around.
So with the bunion, then it's twisting or rotating.
Well, with the bunion is your strike bad, so your body's trying to grow a new toe. You actually feels it needs 6 feet. But also with bunions a lot is genetics, but at the same time is it genetics because you all have that, like my sister and I walking like ducks. I told you that story, right?
Yes.
So see again how these ligaments come around, curve around the back of the foot.
So can we counteract that bunion?
Oh yeah.
When are we having that lesson?
This next August, we're doing all.
August. It might be huge by then.
I don't know how to get the foot off. But even the arch, see, there's
Just the
just,
signs of it, okay, well, it's true.
but see the movement. But look at all the muscles, like what Luciana's, between Luann and I'm just mixing them up. But see now, see how the muscles go this way. And that's why I got out the button toy. I was like, holy gosh, the muscles themselves have rotation. And they were looking at the myosin and the actin all wrong. See here? But you see now where I'm talking about the Da Vinci. Imagine if each one was a line and a lever. So these are the way that the muscles are producing into each other. And so they have the length and the strength and the strands this way. And
I have a book, it's an amazing book that has very good images, and the author is kind of took up all the muscles and
look at that.
put them like in a fan,
Oh.
and it shows that some are like this and some they are counterbalanced in the direction of the fan.
So if anybody wants to look at this, you're more than welcome. I have 4 of these apps, but the ones I do use are the skeletal system one, if he's just straight muscles and the ligaments. So again, like the pelvic region that I like a lot. And just showing how, again, this is just the ligaments and how they work. But again, imagine all of that plus with the muscles. I mean, we're clever beings, we really are. But you're more than welcome to
I have a question about the back of the knee with the Baker's cyst.
right?
So what is that? Is that part of the knee problem that I'm having with the rotation in my...
The knee is
figuring
quite
that?
funny because the knee, if you look at the way it's, I don't know if I can, there we go. The knee is quite interesting because first of all, it floats, right? So the one lady that makes your crumb cake, she's bone on bone, and she's like, why can't I bend my leg? And I'm like, Denise, you don't want to get knee surgery. Cartilage? No cartilage. I don't know how you get your shoes on. I can't help you. What I'm really concerned with is this is going to start splintering off at this point. But she says, I'm not doing surgery and tough. She comes here, she's not in pain. But now if you look at the knee, I wish I could break this off and show you. But the knee gets pretty finite, but it's very delicate. If you get so much as what's considered a grain of sand in there, or a bursa or anything like that, or a Baker's cyst, just striking that is sort of like having a pebble in your shoe and you have to stop, you know what I mean? Our feet are quite sensitive, that if we have just a little smudge in our shoe. So yes, I totally believe, and then it's all wrapped up, so then it can't go anywhere. But if you have a bone spur or a Baker's cyst, it actually can add quite a bit of conversation and your body will avoid it real quickly and start changing that, and that could be why also the bunion could be acting up because you're actually adjusting your gait because of the knee, and it's affecting the.
It's a Baker's cyst.
It's that bubble in the back of your knee. Have you ever felt them? Okay.
Back here?
I thought it was a fatty cyst.
That also can be fatty cysts. I find much more in people's arms though.